Hi everyone, my name is Kimmy Vandeweghe and I'm a coordinator for the class, so hi students. And also I'm a graduate student in the School of Public Health, Department of Nutritional Sciences. So it is my privilege to introduce one of my most inspiring professors, Dr. Kendrin Sonneville. She is also a professor in the School of Public Health, Department of Nutritional Sciences, so holler Andy and anyone else in nutrition. Dr. Kendrin Sonneville is a weight-inclusive registered dietitian, behavioral scientist, and public health researcher. Her research includes eating disorder prevention for children, adolescents, and young adults. So I'm super excited to, her favorite food, sorry, most important thing, it's peanut butter, but you're gonna have to ask her herself if it's crunchy or smooth, so not sure, so she'll let you know. So I'm going to pass the mic to Kendrin, who's going to be speaking about the new AAP Childhood Obesity Guidelines. So here you go.
Thank you, Kimmy. Crunchy, absolutely crunchy. So in my research program, I examine the intended and unintended effects of food and nutrition-related interventions and policies. So I appreciate the opportunity today to talk about the recent guidelines released by the American Academy of Pediatrics, or the AAP, that focus on interventions for high-weight kids. I'm hoping to provide some food for thought related to the potential costs and consequences of these guidelines. So the guidelines are based on the assumption that higher-weight kids should actively be trying to control their weight. And I'm going to focus on 3 recommendations put forth by the AAP that follow from this assumption. The interventions are intensive health, behavior, and lifestyle treatment, pharmacotherapy or medication, and surgery. As we go down the list, if you're horrified, that feels right for the moment. As we go down the list, the recommendations are for increasingly older and heavier children. It's worth noting that the BMI-based measures that you see there are a flawed metric that have a poor predictive value as a measure of health. I'm going to start with the recommendation to refer children 6 years and older to intensive health, behavior, and lifestyle treatment. As the word intensive suggests, these programs require a substantial commitment on the part of kids and families and involve at least 26 hours of face-to-face counseling. The AAP suggests that children and toddlers as young as 2 may be referred to such programs despite quote-unquote limited evidence to support their use in this younger age group. So the guidelines acknowledge known limitations to families to participate in these programs. They're not readily available. They are time-intensive. Treatment is costly and inconsistently paid. These time and financial costs should be considered alongside what are the typical outcomes of these programs, namely that many children are not going to experience BMI changes while participating in these programs, and those that do will note only modest changes. Next, the guidelines recommend that pediatricians offer weight loss medications to adolescents. In the guidelines, they review 7 classes of medications, only 3 of which are even approved for weight loss in adolescents. Although none are approved for weight loss in children under age 12, the guidelines do state that pediatricians may offer medications to children as young as 8. So the potential risks, harms, and costs will really vary based on the type of medication used. I'm going to focus today on the injectable medication semaglutide, also known as Wegovy or Ozempic, because they have received significant media attention of late. So semaglutide was approved for use in pediatric patients as young as 12 following the completion of a phase 3A trial that was conducted in just 200 adolescents. The participants in the trial experienced a range of adverse consequences, the most common of which were gastrointestinal complaints. 4% experienced acute gallbladder disease, and they saw an increase in pancreatic enzymes and heart rate in the children who received the medication. Findings from the adolescent trial, as well as several adult trials, suggest that the lost weight is regained after medication is discontinued. In other words, long-term use of the medication would be needed to sustain weight loss. Bear in mind that the monthly cost of this medication is currently about $800, and there are no safety data to support its long-term use. Finally, the guidelines suggest that adolescents should be referred for metabolic and bariatric surgery evaluation. There are significant healthcare costs, time cost to families, and risk of these procedures. 8% of young people who receive weight loss surgery experience major perioperative concerns, including reoperation due to leaks, bleeding, sepsis, and obstruction. Within 5 years, up to a quarter of young people will require additional follow-up abdominal surgeries related to that initial weight loss surgery, such as hernia repairs, gallbladder removal, or placement of feeding tubes. About 70% will experience vitamin deficiencies, the most common of which are iron, vitamin D, and vitamin B12, and therefore will need long-term monitoring for their nutritional deficiencies. There are other potential costs of the AAP guidelines, such as their impact on health inequities and on weight stigma, that I'm out of time and simply I'm not going to be able to get to today. But I do want to close by coming back to the assumption really underpinning these guidelines. The guidelines uphold the idea that intentional weight loss is the best plan to health for higher weight children, yet fail to sufficiently contend with the ethics of subjecting children to weight-focused interventions that will have permanent impacts on their bodies, their relationship with food, and their self-image.